And this is the pregame show on OSN, the Ottawa Senators and the Toronto Maple Leafs coming up in about half an hour, 40 minutes from now. Lever Sage and Tanner Ryle with you. Tanner, great to see you back. You were at the game the other night. How was it between the first game back for Ottawa and Detroit Live?
Yeah, it's great to be back in the Canadian Tire Center after feels like forever. Like you said, it's been a little while since we've talked on air as well. We didn't do the last game, and there was the Olympic break there. But
yeah,
it was a fun night. Always good to go to the rival games. I don't know why, but it seems like the last 2 or 3 seasons, I think I've been at every Sens Detroit meeting. Just so happened to be the games that I went to.
Yeah.
Not a team I particularly like. Not a fan base that I particularly like, but it was a fun game. I enjoyed watching Brady Tkachuk do what he does best. Even if I didn't have the full context of some of the replays, where not knowing that his own stick was the thing that caught him in the face. But it's a fun, close game. Obviously wish the result went the other way, but that's kind of been the story for most of the season with this team.
Yeah, unfortunately, like we were lucky enough to have former captain, I'll say, Brad Brown. I mean, former NHLer, lots of PIMs, like crazy amount of PIMs. Has fought everyone in the league, and I made a half-hearted comment because I really didn't think he was a captain in the NHL, and he's like, "Actually, I was." I'm like, "That's good. He's going to punch me out right now." But he liked what Brady Tkachuk did. He liked a lot of what happened. I was not in that camp, but there's no question. It's nice to have a storyteller on, and we thank Brad for that. In a game, Tanner, where I didn't think you could pick a lot out from a bad perspective for the Ottawa Senators, I didn't think they played terrible. They were better than Detroit, for sure.
Yeah, and they definitely controlled most of the game. I think they did slip a little bit in the third period, at least from what I noticed. Detroit had a lot more pushback, and my biggest criticism would just be that they let them stay in that game and they didn't put their foot on the throat. You guys mentioned it on the post game the other night. Felt a lot like Team Canada, where they should have won that game and they couldn't vary their chances and came back to bite them in overtime.
It was one of those games that you're right. That is the biggest criticism for sure, is that they had so many chances, especially in the first period. And they had the kind of Nate McKinnon miss off the post. Drake Batherson was robbed by John Gibson kind of from that same spot, but they just had plenty of opportunity to be able to win that game. And the problem is that they've put themselves in a spot where they can't afford like these losses when you're in second place and you're 12 points ahead. And yeah, they're not great because you still should beat the opponent when you play better, but they don't cost you. That night they played really well, and they actually fell a point in the standings to most of the teams. Now, as we get into this Ottawa-Toronto game, one of the big things as we scoreboard watch is that the Boston Bruins lost this afternoon. And quite frankly, they're the team that I think that's even possible that you're going to catch. Like, I don't see another team falling back as much as the Bruins, who now have 71 points. They got beat by Philadelphia. The Flyers season was basically on the line this afternoon. And the Flyers came up with a big win, which has temporarily vaulted them past the Ottawa Senators in the standings. But we have these games almost every night, Tanner, where you look and you see Boston and Philly. If Philly lost in regulation, they're almost done. And now I believe I'm just going to look at the score here.
6 points back of the Islanders now.
Right.
That's what you're looking for. Tied with the Blue Jackets.
But the Blue Jackets are playing the Islanders tonight. And it's 1-0 Columbus near the end of one because that game has already started. And you look at the standings, the Islanders in third in the Metro with 71 and Columbus with 65 points and 2 games in hand. It's a huge one for both teams with the Islanders and the Columbus Blue Jackets. But let's go back.
Just while you're mentioning the Blue Jackets, it's an interesting night to be sitting one of your young, promising forwards. Kent Johnston is a healthy scratch tonight for the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Yeah, I saw that. Uh,
Saw the comments from Bonus saying that he's just not seeing the offensive output that you saw last year from Kent Johnston. I believe he had, 58 points last season. Pulling up his scorecard right now. So, yeah. If 57 points last season, he has 18 this year. Bonus saying he wanted to see some of that offensive output.
Well, I think when you have 3 weeks to think about what you want with your team with this Olympic break, right? You go in and you have to. The Columbus Blue Jackets have been one of the better teams of the last 2 months, but they're still not in the playoffs. And they have to do everything to try and win games, and you can't afford this stuff anymore. So this is the stuff that comes out of a 3-week break when coaches have an opportunity to think about what they want with their lineup and maybe what they have asked guys to do and haven't. And it's a bit of a reset for everybody. So you actually mentioned the one thing on the post-game show from the car. Maybe you were home by then, but that I thought was the most salient point is that you have a game like that, and I'm not blaming Linus Ullmark at all. Like he played well enough for that team to win. But I also think you're right when you say that this team has to have their goalie be the best player for the next 6 weeks. Period.
It's an interesting story because they're at the scene of the crime tonight in Toronto.
Yes,
That's
they
where
are.
it all went down on December 27th in that 7-5 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs, where he left very early in the game and went on his leave. So I'm very interested to see if there's anyone I'll be watching tonight. It'll be Linus Ullmark.
Well, and you have this wounded bear, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the Leafs, who did not look very good in the games against Tampa and Florida, now, if they lose to Ottawa tonight at home on Saturday night, national television, and again, Ottawa's 1 point ahead of Toronto with a game in hand on the Leafs. So they're going to put Toronto way down. The Devils are also winning, which would bring them a little bit closer. But you can effectively say that Toronto's season is pretty much over if they lose tonight. And that's what makes this game even that much more interesting. You have the scene of the crime, as you said. How is Ullmark going to bounce back? It's a road game, but it's not. Like they left yesterday and they went. It's an easy travel day. So, but they come home, right? And then they go out west. And you have Edmonton, who, by the way, is losing again and giving up a pile of goals again.
Did you see the first one?
Yes.
That's celebrating. If that doesn't draw up what Edmonton's goaltending has been all season, I don't know.
Yes,
or just the last 5 years.
But just think about, and that game's over. The Sharks won 5-4. And just imagine what is going on in the head of Mr. McDavid, not winning the gold medal and answering that question from Mark Spector, and then his team can't stop a beach ball like usual over the last couple of years. But that's the team. I'll have to look very quickly if Edmonton. I would doubt that they play before they host Ottawa next, but I don't think they do play. So they don't. So they're going to go home, and after a terrible first couple days where they have let in a ton of goals, they're going to go home and have, a couple days off before the Ottawa Senators have to go and face Connor McDavid. So look, nothing's easy for this team right now, but the point is that they got to win tonight, and Toronto has to win tonight, and they have some demons in Toronto from what happened on December 27th. So it's one game at a time, but we're getting to the point, Tanner, with the deadline coming up on Friday, Like, it's 6 days away, and I have no idea what is the right thing to do, what fans want, what the management wants. Are they gonna ship people out? Are they just gonna stay the course? The cupboard's pretty empty. I don't know if you saw what happened to Belleville last night, but that was not pretty. Um, I'm
I
getting
did.
reports about Yakimchuk and Marilinen, and neither of them
From what
very
I saw,
good.
yeah, Marilinen let in, I believe it was 3 goals on the first 6 shots before he was pulled.
Yeah.
Yakimchuk wasn't great defensively. Also, by the way, has the lowest plus minus in the entire American League.
Yeah. Well, that was pointed out.
And
He was on for the first couple goals, and I had a number of people reach out to tell me that he was the worst plus minus in the league.
And another thing, just if we're talking trade chips, we talked a couple weeks ago about Logan Hensler going down with an injury. He has been shut down for the season.
Yeah. So it's like there's not really a lot of chips to be able to trade, especially from Belleville. You still don't know what's going on with that first round pick. And even if you have one, it's going to be last in the first round. And that's if you have one. The big question that maybe we'll get more of an answer to tonight, but like, what do you do? Now, they got a Boston loss today, which really does help. Yes, they're still 7 points back, but they now have a game in hand, which tonight, if they win that, they're going to be 5 points back of the Boston Bruins for that spot. I don't know. Like, what's your gut say now? I know we've kind of sat on it on the break, and then they got a point, but I have no idea what the right thing to do is here for the team. Like, I have an opinion on it, but I don't know if it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, I think the next 3 games are going to determine what exactly they do. I don't think, no matter what, I don't think this is going to be the same deadline that we saw last year with the big moves for Dylan Cousins and Fabian Zetterlund. But I think if the deadline was tomorrow, you probably do kind of have to stand pat with the way that the scoreboard would be. Maybe you move a couple of pieces out, but I don't think you're making a big move to buy anybody. But if this team goes 3-0 in the next 3 games, then yeah, they probably deserve it. And on the flip side, if they go 0-3, your season's pretty much over. So, but take what you can get.
Yeah, but the answer probably is, what if they go 1-1-1?
Then to me, it's also going to depend, how did the Bruins do during that stretch? How do a couple of other teams look?
Mm-hmm.
Are they still 7 points out, or are they now 10 points out? Are they 5 points out? But I think you could. I think this team is still looking to buy. Clearly not a rental, but if there's a young player that's got some term, say if Kent Johnston was available from Columbus, I think that'd be a good player. I think they'd still like to add a right shot defender, whether it's I don't think it's going to be Mackenzie Weegar, but that's the name that everybody's kind of floating around. I still don't know about that fit, which I'm sure we're going to talk plenty about him over the next couple of days.
Yeah, exactly. I did see a couple of reports, Tanner. I'll give you credit on Zach Whitecloud.
Whitecloud would be another one. Connor Murphy's not signed through this next season, but maybe he's a guy. Tyler Myers' name is out there a little bit. Some smoke around that. So I could see that, but I also think that this team is probably going to move somebody out. I think Lars Eller makes a lot of sense in my mind as a guy that I think a Stanley Cup contender would covet as a third, fourth line center. You've got Stephen Halliday right there who's ready to fill in that slot. Why not try and get an asset back for him, just with how much draft capital this team has moved? So
that's just kind of managing your assets. But the real questions are, would you trade Claude Giroux? Right?
If he wants it. That's the thing. If he wants to be here, I don't trade him. If he wants to go and chase a cup, he deserves that.
So if they go 2-1 and they're 6 points out, are you trading Claude Giroux if he wants to go?
If he wants to go, I'm trading him, no question, no matter what is going on, because he chose to came here. He's done this organization so much, and he deserves to chase a Stanley Cup. If he wants to be here next season, I'm keeping him around because he is such a big part of that room and a big part of
listen, I agree. If he wants to stay and be here for next year, 1,000,000%. Like, you're not even thinking about it. But this is
If you
the
wanted to
hard.
stay, I'd extend him tomorrow if you wanted to stay.
Yeah, right. But this is the issue now with not being able. I don't want to say not communicate because they're always talking to the agents, but not giving out the information that you would like. Is that what if he just says nothing? What if you go and ask him and he's like, I'm just gonna see. Like, what if he gives you a non-answer because he's not sure? What do you do in that case? Do you
I
just not trade him to not piss him off? But that's not managing your team.
In Giroux's case, I'd keep him.
Yes, but okay. But
I get where you're coming from, but
yeah,
he's shown every reason that he wants to stay and retire here.
Okay. So what if you got a first round pick and went and talked to him about, Claude, we'll give you anything you want if you come back next year?
Yeah,
Like,
that never happens. When does that ever happen, though?
it's happened a few times.
A few.
But this isn't about history. This is about going to him and like, what do you want to do? And if he says, I'd love to be here. So the issue at that point too is that Claude Giroux knows that the Ottawa Senators are probably going to be a better team if he comes back, if they're able to get a couple assets for him. What if they went out and didn't get a pick and actually got, a young, decent player for Claude Giroux? They're going to be better next year. I know what you're saying. It doesn't often happen, but I don't know that I'm letting Claude Giroux just be on the team to fear of not pissing him off and be in that 5, 6, 7 points back, and then he leaves anyway. That's not good management. So, again, I don't have all the answers. I'm just saying that these are very tough questions because the job of Steve Staios right now is to fill the cupboards back up. It's the same conversation they're having in Toronto. Over the next 4 years till 2029, the Leafs have 50% of their picks in the first 3 rounds. Which, said another way, they don't have 50% of either their first, second, or third round pick over the next 4 years. And they're not good. So what they have to start thinking about filling the cupboard back up. I don't know. I just look at the Belleville Senators and I look at like Ottawa right now. They don't have picks. They don't have a good farm system. And I don't know where they're going right now. They're just hovering in this mediocrity. And to be quite frank with you, it brings back a lot of memories of how this team was run for a long time after the nice run of 07 and 08. And when it started to get back into, 09 and 10, where they weren't very good, it was just this weird, hey, they're decent. They made the playoffs. And then the next year, they're 6 or 7 points out and they don't make the playoffs. And then the next year, they make the playoffs, but they're not a true contender. And then the next year, they don't. Is that where we are? It kind of feels like it.
A little bit, yeah. But I also say, if this team had the goaltending this season, they'd be looking pretty good.
But they don't.
But it wasn't. I'll give you that. But the thing that killed those late 2000s team, that wasn't just one thing.
Yeah.
One very fixable thing, or what you would hope would be fixable.
Okay, so how's it fixable?
Well, that's what's. I think Steve Staios would like to know.
Yeah, I know, but there isn't a clear answer. It's not as if this team had, I don't know, a goaltender like Bobrovsky who's not having a very good year, or, some other really good goalie that's having an off year. And you're like, well, he's definitely going to be back next year. It's going to be okay. And the rest of our team is solid. I would say, okay, don't trade anyone. Just manage a couple assets like Eller and maybe David Perron but fine, keep it the same and run it back. But I don't know. I don't have an answer to the goaltending. I have no idea whether Linus Ullmark is going to be any better next year than he is this year. What would give you an indication that he's going to be a lot better? And what's behind him?
Like I said, he's going to have to play really well down the stretch. And I don't think there's any world where the Senators are going to run back Ullmark and Merrilainen at the start of next season. They can't.
Yeah. Well, I would agree with that too. It just don't.
I feel pretty confident that I don't think James Reimer will be the guy either.
No, and they're going to go out and get a backup goalie. But again, I warn people a lot about this. This is like saying you're going to go out and get a backup quarterback in football just in case, because the rest of your team is amazing. And if we just go out and get a backup that's going to be okay. No, the answer is your number one guy has to be really good. And he's not. And a backup goalie, like getting Anton Forsberg back or getting somebody like the caliber where you have a little bit of trust in him, is not going to fix this team.
No. You better be sitting down with Ullmark and saying, like, what do we got to do, man?
Yeah.
Like, is it a new trainer you need? Do we need a new coaching staff? Like, you got to figure it out with him. He has to be the guy.
Yeah, I think you're tied to it. And I don't know the answer, which is scary.
Nobody's taking that contract on right now. Like, absolutely not. They already had to retain on Korpisalo, and he was making half of that money for half of that time. Or well, about the same term, but half the money. Nobody's touching that. Plus, he has trade protection. I don't think he wants to go anywhere.
Sorry, I'm completely distracted because I was looking at goaltending, thinking about teams that are still in the hunt for another goalie too. And I was looking at the Edmonton Oilers, and over their last, like, they've lost 5 of 6. And it's like 7-3, 5-2, 4-3, 6-5, 5-4. But even in some of the wins, yes, they beat the Kings, who just had a bad night. They beat them 8-1. But even in their wins, they beat Anaheim 7-4. They beat Washington 6-5 in overtime. They lost to Pittsburgh 6-2 before that. Like, so they're not going to be the only team trying to figure this out.
Telling me Tristan Jarry wasn't the answer? Nice little business by Kyle Dubas there, flipping Kulak as well and getting even more back. He's having quite the run there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but he's a smart guy. He's always been a pretty smart guy. And the thing about working in Toronto is that you answer to a lot of people on a board of directors. Like, you don't just go and answer to the owner. Mm-hmm. You go and answer to a massive amount of people. And he had Brendan Shanahan ahead of him that he had to answer to before Shanahan would go to the board. Like, that's not a normal working situation for a GM. And now he's in that spot. I never quite understand this. So, a young whippersnapper like you can help me out with, went to hockeystats.com, have the Ottawa Senators at 41% to make the playoffs as of this morning. And then I went to Money Puck and they're at 34%. So yeah, I'm not quite.
If you check the Athletic, they'll have a different number as well. They all have their own different models.
Right.
But usually it's a combination of advanced stats like your expected goals, your goals saved above expected. Typically, it also takes into account strength of schedule and the teams that you're going to play for the rest of the season. But some of them are a little bit more recent, like biased when it comes to the stats, like how's the team been in the last 5 to 10 games.
Yeah.
Others are less so.
So they do have the playoff probabilities that they take a lot of the things that you were saying, the metrics into account, and then they run it 100,000 times for the rest of the season based on that. And that's at Money Puck, and that has them at 34% going into the day, 34.3 to be exact. Okay, so what are you looking for in the game tonight specifically, you have another one of these matchups where it was Dylan Larkin and Brady Tkachuk. Now it's Austin Matthews and Brady Tkachuk as the two American captains of their poorly performing Canadian teams with everything going on. There's a lot of pressure, and make no mistake, like, this pressure is unlike anything we've ever really seen before because it is so politically driven. I don't know that I've ever seen, um, and I'm being somewhat serious when I say this, that there was a with what the US is doing in Iran right now, they didn't field questions about that this morning, but there was a major thought that both Austin Matthews and Brady Tkachuk would have to answer questions about the US with their war with Iran that has started today. And that's almost unlike anything I've ever seen before, with young people being American captains of Canadian teams that would have to answer something like that. So that's the type of pressure that both Brady Tkachuk and Austin Matthews are feeling right now. It's a different type of pressure for sure. So what are you looking for going into tonight?
Well, Matthews is the big guy that you've got to look out for. So I'll flip that onto the guy that's going to be matched up with him. You would hope for most of the night. I know it's an away game, so it's hard to get your matchups, but you best believe Shane Pinto is going to be seeing the ice a lot when Austin Matthews is out there. And he's been very good at shutting down these elite centers, including Matthews, McKinnon. We saw Heischer down the stretch. Group of these elite number one centers, Eichel. So I'm interested to see what Pinto is going to do to shut down Austin Matthews because he has to be one of the best players on the ice tonight. I'd still like to see maybe his line mates change it up a little bit. I feel like Pinto's been a little cold on the offensive side of the game, but he's playing with Michael Amadio and Claude Giroux.
Yeah, I didn't think he was very noticeable at all on Thursday compared to some of the other guys. And unfortunately, the only time I really noticed him is he was in position with Dylan Larkin in overtime, and then Dylan Larkin skated right by him and went in and scored the goal. That was Pinto's guy. And Pinto was in position, and he just didn't skate until it was too late. And then Dylan Larkin was gone and scored the goal. So I too, that was kind of the guy I was focusing in on, funny enough, because we haven't seen a lot from him, and he was responsible for the goal. It's 3-on-3, I get it, but that's your guy. He had him, and then he didn't have him, and then they lost. So then how do you respond to that? And then for me too, it's Ottawa trying to do a lot of the same, Tanner, as what they've done. I was still amazed because you're at the game, you probably didn't know the exact total, but once again, they went like over 14 minutes without giving Detroit a shot on goal from the first period into the second period. And like, it was a big stretch of time. This team does not allow a lot of shots against. It's incredible, like, what they've been able to do and not get the results because of the way that they're playing defensively. Can they do that against a very desperate? I don't think Toronto's any good, but they're coming home tonight, Toronto, to face another team that's kind of with them in the standings after getting pummeled by the Florida teams after the break. It is not going to go well in Toronto if they lose tonight. So,
especially to the team that they beat in the playoffs last season. And I'll mention another player that I think I'll be looking at tonight who came up on the post game the other night, Drake Batherson. I'd like to see a little bit more out of him. Pointless in his last two games. But before that, he had a 4-game point streak. Second on the team in points. Very streaky player.
Yeah.
But I think they need to see a little bit more out of him going down the stretch. And he's a guy who really struggled in that Toronto series last season.
Yeah, he had a couple of really good chances to score. I am interested to see how some of the guys bounce back. Some big ice times, just from, Jake Sanderson played a ton right after coming home. Brady, not as much. Brady still played almost 16 minutes in a game that he sat out more than 12 with a misconduct, which I thought was a pretty impressive total He absolutely would have been above 20 minutes in that game. And Thomas Chabot had another heavy night when it came to that. So, yeah, I mean, I'm focusing Ullmark number one, and then just sort of how does Ottawa handle the desperation of a team and be able to settle themselves to win a game that they have to win, because the Leafs are going to be desperate, and Ottawa, man, if they don't win here and they're still 7 points back, and games are going on tomorrow and games are going on Monday, and by the time they even hit the ice Tuesday in Edmonton, all of these teams are going to have played again. So it's every night now with this situation that they're in is a really big night. You'll have to keep me abreast of who comes out of the box in Elimination Chamber, because I will be watching the hockey game.
You think I'm watching that?
Yes, Tanner. Yes.
I don't have to. I'm not on This Is Wrestling, right? That's
I know.
Watch that garbage.
Very, very, very funny. And I just thought I'd point out that Jack Hughes has an assist tonight, and the Devils are leading 2-0. My U.S. hero, Jack Hughes.
Your guy.
He is my guy. Okay, Tanner, enjoy the game. You and I will be back after the game. And again, it's a real big one against Toronto. We will see you in about 2.5 hours.
For This Is Overtime.
Let's hope it doesn't go to overtime tonight. But yes, This Is Overtime. We'll be on regardless. For Tanner Ryle, I'm Lee Versage. We will talk to you after the game here on OSN.